Hello, everybody, and welcome to Pocket Coach. Today, we are looking at a technique called the problem swarm. I've also been told it's called a problem smash, if you like that better. But problem swarm, the idea here is sometimes there are problems that just don't go away, right? So you do a retrospective, and you do another retrospective, and you do another retrospective. You do an inspect and adapt if you're doing safe, whatever the technique is, and yet the problems don't seem to go away. Some problems are just a lot harder. So in the problem swarm, oh, I forgot to stop my clock. So in the problem swarm experiment, we learn a technique to get group minds together to solve our harder problems that just don't go away. So some problems keep biting us despite our efforts to eliminate them. Hypothesis, if we do a group think technique on those tough problems, together we will collectively find ways through. Um, and time frame once a quarter. Oh, that's funny. I got to fix that. The time frame on this one is really just one event. You do this one, so 90 minutes would be the time frame. So I'll go edit that. And then typical outcomes: you will increase flow, you will increase quality, you'll increase value delivery. I'll fix that spelling error, and increase engagement as well. So lots of great outcomes out of this one. What is the skill growth criteria? You have identified a big difficult problem, and you used a problem swarm event to find a solution, and then you implemented that solution. That's what it takes. My shirt today is black hole. Okay. So let's get into it. I did create a little deck here to help with this. You don't really need the deck as much as like a Miro board or a mural board, whatever you like. But I did put a little guide together. There's 7 steps. So number 1, you got to succinctly state the problem that you're trying to solve. Our teams are still doing waterfall at the top levels of management. And so our stories look like requirement stories and design stories and test stories because our life cycle is set up that way. That might be so it's succinctly stated, our top level life cycle is waterfall, causing us to write bad stories at the team level. Okay, so something simple like that. Identify the right people. So now, who do we need in the room to solve this? That's the hardest part of the swarm, is to figure out who needs to be there and then getting them to come. Okay. Sometimes you have a swarm with the wrong people, and then you realize who you're missing as you swarm, and then you do another swarm with the right people. Number 3, you got to book the session. 90 minutes is pretty typical. You might need more than one, depending on how hard the problem is. You need to set up a collaboration space for group thinking, whether it's a physical space or whether it's online. You need a space where people can group think. You'll then use group thinking techniques to tap into everyone's minds during your event. You will hold additional 90-minute sessions as needed, and all the identified work that needs to be done now needs to go on the backlog, and then you got to get it done. So that's basically the overview. Here is the actual problem swarm agenda. You can do whatever you want in a problem swarm, but this is one example. Number 1 is who is here and why, right? Number 2 is, okay, so what's our current state? And everybody, again, group think. What's our current state? Root causes. Why do we think we're in this state? What does success look like? Okay, so if we fix this, how would it look? And then strategies, pros and cons. All right, so what are some solution ideas that we could implement, our strategy, right? And finally, let's describe the actual solution as if it was done in a journey, because from a journey, we can then harvest features and stories, which is what we'll do as part of the solution of the journey, is we'll harvest the features and stories. So that's the problem swarm agenda. And then you can see I have slides for all this, but these just came off of a Miro board. So rather than going through the slides, I'm going to go to the Miro board. So here I'm using Miro. You could probably use Miro as well. You could probably use PowerPoint even if you needed to. But I'm a big fan of Miro. So I have here the problem to be solved. So I'd put that here at the top. So, it's the first thing you see in big. And then here are my attendees, my current state, my root causes, what does success look like, my strategies, and my solution as a journey. I also put it into my outline. So there's my agenda right there. So I'm going to click on attendees. So for attendees, this is what I would see. I'll put in the people's names, but I want to know why they're there. So Anthony, that's me. I'm here to facilitate the session, but also I'm a creative out-of-the-box thinker, so I probably will have some solution ideas that no one else maybe would have thought of. This is how my brain works. So everybody puts their name and the reason they came to this one. I'm here because I'm a tester, and we definitely have a lot of test stories, and I don't even know why we'd want to get rid of those. I like the current way, right? Boom. There's my reason for participating. Okay, then current state. So for current state, we do a group thing. You time box each of these things, by the way, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever the right box is. 3 to 5 minutes is pretty typical for these time boxes. In fact, 3 is my preference, and then I go longer if people are still going, right? So for current state, I'm like, all right, so what do you mean by our top level management program is very waterfall? What does that look like? What does that mean? And so in current state, you can just type up whatever you think people should know about in the current state. Our executive team is brand new, right? Maybe someone would think that's important. They could put that in current state. All right, that's my first 5 minute time box. I'll reset and I'll just finish out these other steps if you want to see them. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, continuing. So current state is any piece of data that's true right now. Root causes, you can do 5 whys, you can do a mind map, right? But in general, it's really powerful just to say, okay, now that you saw the current state, why are we in that state? And so here you can see that there's guidance I put on each slide, dot vote. So I like to dot vote the current state ideas as to which of the current state ideas is the most important for us to really consider. And then if you don't know what dot voting is, everybody gets a certain number of dots. They can spend it on the tickets that they care about the most, and then you add up all the dots. And by the way, most of these tools have a voting system built in, so you can do it right here. So now that thinking about those biggest current state thoughts, why are we here? What are the real roots behind those biggest problems? So again, we'll figure those out, and then we'll dot vote the most significant root cause, because we can't solve everything. So you got to go after one thing at a time. And if that unlocks the problem, great. If not, at least we made progress towards it. So you want to limit your scope when you do these things. What is the biggest root cause we can go after? What is the root cause we are most likely to succeed if we go after, right? Biggest impact, that sort of thing. Okay, next up, what does success look like? So here, imagine that the problem's been solved. What would it be like? What would the world be if this problem was solved? And again, here people can grab sticky notes and fill that in. Again, you have group thinking, many minds, then you debrief it. So 3 minutes to collect the ideas, and then 5 minutes to discuss. Some of them will take longer than 5 minutes. That's where you get burnt on time. Then this is my favorite part, the strategies. How do we solve it? Right? I'm a solution person. I love coming up with solutions. But I got to hold off because my solutions need to target the best root cause. My solution needs to address the current state. And so if I don't go through those steps, the solution I provide may not be the best one. So these steps help me get to a better solution. Then once we have a few solutions up there, sometimes you only have one, sometimes you have 2 or 3, but you have a couple solutions. What we could do, if there's more than one, then you can do pros and cons to talk about the different strategies, and then say, okay, now that we have 4 ways we could solve this, 4 strategies, here are the pros and cons of each of the 4. Okay, we got to pick one. And again, here's where you could dot vote and pick the strategy that is most likely to bring us to a better future. Finally, we can do the solution as a journey. And I love this technique here, using this technique for many, many years. You get one subject matter expert and you give them like a 10-minute time box or less. And you say, okay, imagine this is done and you're now using our solution, right? So now you're on a development team where this has been solved, right? Or whatever the issue is that we're trying to solve. So we pretend it's done, and one person will say, okay, first they would do this, and they would do this, and they would do this. And so there's the journey as a solution being done. Then as they go, they'll be like, oh, but this could happen. Oh, but that could happen. We want to just get one steel thread of what it would be like. And yep, there's other things that could be true, but let's get one steel thread. For those alternatives that pop into your head as you go, just add it as an alternative. Oh, this could happen. Oh, that could happen. It's possible that they're on a project where waterfall is critical. Okay, so alternative 1, waterfall critical project. Keep going with the ones where it's not critical. Okay, so that's how you kind of keep people focused, but it's one voice at this point in time. All the rest of the time, it's been multiple voices. Right now, it's one voice. There's a big reason for that. If you have multiple voices, you'll never get the full journey out because people lose their train of thought. It's amazing how much they do. So here, just have one person get out all the steps from start to finish, then have the rest of the people improve it. Okay, I'm done. What do you guys think? And then you improve it. Finally, you can draw it like this instead of having it in text. You can draw it. I find it's easier to do it in text, so I like doing it in text. I can insert things a lot faster. But when it's stable, I like to put it in a diagram so I can share the journey with other people in a much more consumable fashion. Finally, every single one of these steps is a candidate feature or story. If it's going to take you a couple of days, up to 2 weeks, then call it a story. If it's going to take you more than a couple of weeks, then call it a feature. If it's going to take you more than a couple of quarters, it's an epic. Okay. And so you can actually shape up the work. And by the way, that's safe vocabulary or Jira aligned vocabulary. If you're using Jira, then you might just be stories and epics, which are features everywhere else. All right. So anyway, you can write up your journey, turn it into stories and features. You put all that in your backlog, and your problem swarm is done. So there you go. That's the problem swarm technique and one way to go about it. I hope you enjoyed this particular Pocket Coach video.